You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Coming up, we're going to go three wide with our football team-by-team previews as we look at East Carolina with Bubba Rosenbaum of the Sports Objective podcast. Brian Fox of BearcatSportsRadio.com will be here to preview Cincinnati, and Knightline's own Andrew Phegley is here to take a look at UCF for the 2021 season. They are all standing by in the virtual green room, presumably getting along, and will join us each individually throughout the course of the show. Let's run down the schedule for week one. Yes, college football is back. After the week 0, now we get down to business with all AAC teams in action, starting on Thursday night with a full slate of games. It starts with Temple at Rutgers, all times Eastern, 6:30 on the Big Ten Network. Rutgers leads the all-time series 20-16 and won the last meeting by a score 23-20 back in 2013. Boise State at UCF. Prime time, 7 o'clock on ESPN. The first ever meeting between these two schools who have made a lot of the noise in the last decade as far as wanting inclusion into the Power Five. East Carolina versus Appalachian State in the Dukes Mayo Classic. And that one will be on ESPNU, 7:30 p.m. Thursday. Appalachian State leads the all-time series 19-12. East Carolina won the last meeting back in 2012 by a 35-13 score. South Florida at North Carolina State. That'll be 7:30 on the ACC network. The Wolfpack lead the all-time series 2-1 and were victorious in their last meeting in 2014 by a 49-17 score. And the last of the Thursday games, UC Davis at Tulsa, 7:30 on ESPN+. It's the first ever meeting between those two programs. Saturday, Oklahoma at Tulane is now Tulane at Oklahoma due to the Hurricane Ida impacts on New Orleans. So the game in Norman will be a noon Eastern kickoff on ABC. Oklahoma leads the all-time series 1-0, with that victory coming in 2017 by a 56-14 score. Marshall at Navy, 3:30 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. It's the first ever meeting between those two. Miami of Ohio at Cincinnati for the Victory Bell, 3:30 Saturday on ESPN+. Miami of Ohio leads this long-running series 59-58. Cincinnati won the last meeting in 2019 with a 35-13 victory. Texas Tech in Houston will square off in the Texas kickoff Saturday night, 7 o'clock prime time on ESPN. Houston leads the all-time series 18-13 with one tie. Texas Tech won the 2019 meeting the last time they played by a 63-49 score. And Nicholls at Memphis rounds actually two more games. Nicholls at Memphis will be 7 p.m. ESPN+. Memphis leads that series 1-0, winning the only meeting in 2008 by a 31-10 score. And Abilene Christian at SMU. SMU leads that series all-time 1-0. And you may remember the last time they played. Way back in 1925, SMU won by a 52-7 score. All right, time now to continue our team-by-team previews. We take a look at the Pirates of East Carolina. Joining us now, our friend from the Sports Objective podcast, Bubba Rosenbaum. Bubba, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing well in my own right, and certainly excited because football season is back upon us once again, and we're going to talk about East Carolina now going into the 2021 season. 2020 was a 3-6 mark, 3-5 in conference. Third year for Mike Houston, and I know the third year is kind of when you want to start to see the program start to make that turn. And of course, last year, with the COVID situation impacting things, that might have delayed things a little bit. But how do you see things going into the season for Coach Houston?
A lot of folks in and around the program really feel like, this is the most excited that a large percentage, if not all of Pirate Nation, has been for a football season. Just with all those things you just mentioned, and we'll dive more into that in a moment. But since really the Ruffin McNeil era, at least 2015, if not 2014, you really feel like Coach Houston and this staff have implemented their culture. The physicality is getting to where it needs to be. The way of practicing and being able to play with that physical style. A lot of talent has been brought into the program. The depth is better than it's been in those 6-7 years, like I mentioned, going back to the Ruffin McNeil era. And you just really see it in all facets, but whether it's on the field or off. Yes, you only went 3-6 last year, but you had that game against Navy. If Holton Ahlers is available, and yes, if and buts, and that's part of it with COVID. But you really felt like you'd have got that one at home because you still only lost by a score. You had the Tulsa debacle, and what happened there. And so that right there, you'd have been 5-4, and then you lost some games because of COVID. I mean, games that were just wiped off the schedule before the season even started. And you really feel like you'd have had a great chance to be in a bowl game. But the 3-6 record really wasn't indicative of the strides the program made. I think it was more, late in the year. Yeah, you did have the Temple game where Temple was really struggling with some of their numbers due to COVID. But then SMU, that was no fluke. SMU had a full complement of players, and Pirates jumped all over the Mustangs, led 45-7 at halftime before going on to the win.
Well, let's talk about going into this season. Of course, one thing Mike Houston has had the luxury of is having stability at the quarterback position. Holton Ahlers is in his fourth season. It's almost hard to fathom a guy being the quarterback in 4 seasons in college nowadays, but there you have it. Talk about his progression over the years, and is he poised for a big senior season?
I really feel like he is, and you talk about fourth year in the program as a result of COVID. If he chooses to, and depending on the type of year he has, and he had an NFL possibility or not, so he could come back in 2022 if he so chooses. But the biggest thing Holton's looking for is just a little more consistency. His completion percentage improved a year ago in the 8 games in which he played. Like I said, he missed that Navy game. So in his 8 starts, he completed a little over 60% of his passes, nearly 2,000 yards. An interception, touchdown to interception ratio of greater than 2-1. But going back to that consistency, out of those 9 interceptions, 6 of them came in 2 games, and a lot of that was, falling behind. The running game really wasn't an option, both because of the lack of productivity and then also just the score and time situation. So those games, opposing defensive fronts were able to tee off and get a lot of pressure, and Holt made some ill-advised throws, poor decisions. But really feel like he's primed for an excellent 4th season, 3rd under this coaching staff, and that's certainly paying dividends on having that continuity at offensive coordinator with Donnie Kirkpatrick. And one of the things that I'm really interested to see is how much they utilize him in the ground attack. He has that ability, but because of the backup quarterback situation, they've been hesitant to do so the last couple years, where Scotty Montgomery ran him like he was, we had 4 quarterbacks available. I mean, they were running him probably 20 times a game. Definitely not going to see that, but I think Holton could see, 7, 8, 9 carries on a pretty consistent basis this year. He trimmed down, lost 15 pounds, so he's quicker, moving better than ever before, and I think really going to have a solid year.
And, of course, he's got familiarity at the receiver position. Tyler Snead and C.J. Johnson are back, so that's certainly having that consistency certainly does not hurt.
Not at all on Tyler Snead. Like you mentioned, the leading returning receiver, had about 55 receptions a season ago after a solid 2019 as well, when he had 60 or 65 catches. He's so reliable. Coach Houston said if you had 85 Tyler Sneed's on scholarship, and you're getting that type of consistency with effort and production. You would feel great about your team. But in addition to Tyler, C.J. Johnson had a huge freshman campaign last year, only had 19 catches. Really, kind of the mental aspect of the game from the standpoint of opponents were able to get in his head a bit, jam him at the line of scrimmage where he was not able to get a good release off the ball. He did draw 15 pass interference calls, so that was certainly worth something as well. So that 19 receptions is a little misleading, but nonetheless, it was a pretty mediocre sophomore season for C.J. Johnson. He did have 6 touchdown receptions, but very intrigued to see how he's improved his route running and also his mental aspects of the game, like I mentioned, not getting as flustered here in 2021. And then behind those two guys, you're really looking at guys like Josiah Hatfield, Aldi Omatosho, and maybe a Tyler Savage, somebody that hasn't really contributed before. Taji Hudson, converted quarterback to wide receiver. Some guys like that, who's going to step up and give you a third, fourth, and fifth option.
As far as the running game, who's going to be toting the rock?
Rajay Harris and Keaton Mitchell, that duo combined for nearly 1,100 yards a season ago as a true freshman, and that was pretty remarkable given that you didn't have spring practice. So Harris had right around 650, Mitchell 450. So I really think that I would not be surprised to see at least one of them get 1,000 yards here in 2021, and the other one have a fine season as well. A nice thunder and lightning combo, if you will. I mean, you have Harris, who's the bigger of the two backs, but he still has plenty of speed. He took it 80 yards last year for a touchdown against Navy. And then Mitchell's the smaller back and faster of the two backs. And even though his longest run last year was only 35 yards, he took multiple carries, probably 75, 80 yards to the house in practice. So definitely keep an eye on Keaton Mitchell, both in the ground attack and also catching the ball out of the backfield.
And, of course, the offensive line, they were really good with the running game, and maybe had a little more struggles in pass protection and probably, a little bit undersized. But how do they look going into this season?
The offensive line is definitely much closer to where it needs to be, although not there just yet. 8 guys have started games before, 10 or 11 have playing experience. You talk about being undersized. One of those that was extremely undersized was starting right tackle, Bailey Malovic. Bailey was playing anywhere from like 245 to 257 a season ago, which is just mind-boggling for a FBS starting offensive tackle. He packed on 40 pounds, 45 pounds, and is up to about 290, 295 now, and was able to maintain that athleticism. Last year, he simply didn't have enough lead in his pencil, but coaches have raved about him, and very interested to see with that additional weight how he plays against App State in the opener tomorrow night, and then just moving forward throughout the season. And in addition to some more depth, you also have some interchangeability where guys can play both center and guards. Coach Shank, Donnie Kirkpatrick as offensive coordinator, had some options there that they haven't had. And, their stint under Coach Houston back at East Carolina after, really inheriting a pretty tough situation, to put it mildly.
And of course, moving to the defensive side of the ball, it was a rough sledding pretty much through the first 6-7 games of the season, but they showed some improvement down the stretch, and they got a lot of guys returning. How do you see them progressing this season?
No doubt, defense has to get a lot better, and I really think that we'll make nice strides this year. A season ago, we allowed right at 35 points a game. I could see that getting down into the upper 20s or something where you have a fighting chance. So I really think the defense will make some strides under second-year coordinator Blake Harrell, and you've had some continuity finally. This is crazy to say, but this is the first time you've had a coordinator and back-to-back seasons in quite some time because you had the revolving door under Coach Mo, and then you had Bob Trott and Coach Houston's first year, and then Coach Harrell was hired prior to last season. So definitely looking for a lot of improvement there. You talk about the defensive line. Rick DeBrew, he's a guy that played on the interior a season ago. This year he's going to be playing more at end. He will have to miss the first half of the first game against App State because of a ridiculous rule, with the targeting and having to miss the second half of SMU in the season finale and then the first half tomorrow. But in addition to that, you have a lot of guys that are still extremely young, but then they, as true freshmen, got a lot of snaps playing in those 8 to 9 ball games a season ago. Probably the most experienced and most proven aspect of the defense is linebacker. You have Bruce Bibbins and Xavier Smith, a couple of seniors, and guys who really, I guess, would not have been back this year if it was not for COVID. And, Bruce Bivens, he's a 6th-year guy. And you're looking on the back end, DJ Ford transferring in from North Carolina. He's 6'3", 215 or 20 pounds, and really a tremendous athlete. And coaches have raved about him. And then at corner, you have some guys that are pretty proven, especially Jaquan McMillan. He has 7 interceptions combined over the last 2 seasons. A little undersized at 5'9" or so, but very competitive and excellent corner. One of the best corners East Carolina's had in quite some time. And then also guys like Malik Fleming, Warren Saba, and there's several other familiar names there in the defensive backfield to make you think that there is, the possibility for significant improvement in 21.
All right, well, let's talk about the season because you mentioned they're open against App State in Charlotte. And give me your thoughts on what you think the campaign will yield for the Pirates in 2021.
I see probably the win total 5 to 7 wins. If I had to put a number on it, somewhere in that range. Definitely think that we'll contend for a bowl. Hopefully, we'll be able to achieve that goal. Very tough season opener against App State. In my opinion, even though the Pirates play South Carolina in Game 2, this is definitely the most challenging non-conference game. A non-conference schedule that, in addition to App State and Charlotte, features South Carolina coming to Greenville and then also a trip to Marshall. But taking a look at it, I really think that in the non-conference, the Pirates can go at least 2-2, if not better, in those 3 games that I mentioned. And then you have the FCS opponent in Charleston Southern for the 4th non-conference game. You certainly expect to get that one. And then in league play last year, I guess the Pirates were 3-5, very close to being 5-3. So you really like the chances of getting to a bowl. And you do get Cincinnati at home. That's probably the tallest task. And then you do have to go to UCF as well, which will be tough to come out victorious. But stranger things have happened. And you really think that you can get to that 6-win plateau and get to a bowl for the first time since 2014.
All right, Bubba, before we let you go, please make your shameless plugs for the Sports Objective and what you guys are doing covering college football.
Absolutely. We obviously focus on East Carolina football, but then we'll talk college football at large, and we'll do a weekly show called The Inside Slant where we talk about some of that week's tops games. But in addition to that, just follow us on YouTube. Just search The Sports Objective. Be sure to subscribe, and that way, whenever we release new content, you'll be notified. On social media, you can follow us on Twitter at TheSportsOBJ. It's the same at TheSportsOBJ on TikTok. Then on Instagram at The Sports Objective. And you can like and follow us on Facebook as well.
Outstanding. Bubba, once again, thanks for being on.
Thanks so much. It's always a lot of fun, Jeff, and look forward to coming back really soon.
Up next, our Team Series previews continues with Brian Fox of Bearcat Sports Radio as we look at Cincinnati. That's next when the AAC report continues, only on the Knightline Sports Network in just a moment.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, we continue our team-by-team previews in the American. And up next, we look at the reigning champs, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Joining us to discuss them now, Brian Fox of BearcatSportsRadio.com. Brian, how are you?
Oh, I'm great.
Yeah.
How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. And Cincinnati coming off a stellar campaign a year ago, 9-1 overall, undefeated in conference as the champions, and a New Year's Six bowl game, which they gave Georgia quite a tussle. And so 2020 was a great success, and now it's on to 2021. And I think as angry as you were last year when the BCS rankings came out and did not give Cincinnati its due, while early season rankings aren't typically too much to get hyped up about, at least this year, Cincinnati getting a prime number 8 slot in the AP poll. Great starting position for them.
Yeah. It's nice to start toward the top where I think a lot of the top tier programs in our conference belong. And, you see it every season. Those of us in the AAC have to deal with this every year where, whenever one of our teams is primed to be successful and returns a lot of great players, we often start in the bottom half of the top 25. And so we're at a disadvantage, and we don't have that tailwind of, starting at the top and then being able to confirm that we belong, and using air quotes that wouldn't show up on a podcast, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those other teams that are in Power 5 conferences that have brands that I think are overvalued by a lot of folks tend to get that tailwind. And so it's nice for us to start toward the top.
Yeah, no question about that. So getting that start underway, Luke Fickell now in his 5th season, 35-14 mark overall. And, of course, the staple of a Luke Fickell football team is defense. And, the Bearcats were so excellent on that side of the ball a year ago, as they were number 1 in conference, 13th in the nation, allowing just 325 yards, 17 points per game, and just pretty much shutting the other team's offense down. Now, Marcus Freeman has moved on to Notre Dame. The defensive coordinator, Mike Tressel, will replace him. But, of course, it's Luke Fickell's, handiwork that is the architect of that. Talk about that defense, and will they be able to continue that role?
Yeah, the defense, the folks that are returning on defense give me great cause for excitement. On the defensive front, you've got a guy in Myjay Sanders who is, I think he's a top first 2 rounds NFL draft guy, preseason All-American. Curtis Brooks is also really strong up front. Malik Van, one of our hometown heroes, a local Cincinnati guy who stayed here in the Queen City rather than chasing some of those other offers. Those three up front are going to provide a pretty solid foundation to our defense. And then you look at our secondary where we've got, Sauce Gardner, who's returning his junior season, and he's another preseason All-American. Kobe Bryant is returning for his, graduate year, and Arquan Bush and Javon Hicks and Brian Cook. I mean, there is so much to be excited about on this defense, and that's without even, we have a guy in Darian Beavers who transferred from UConn, so a conference guy, but they've put so much muscle on his frame now, and at 6'4" and kind of a roaming linebacker role, he's going to ruin a lot of people's days. And it's just a physical defensive front. It's a physical secondary. We're going to be a handful for teams.
Yeah, and, having so many great players returning on the defense side of the ball, that's got to make the transition between defensive coordinators somewhat of a smoother opportunity there.
Yeah, and it's I think Marcus Freeman was a big loss. He was somebody that I think everybody within the fan base was looking to, that if Luke Fickell ever chased another job, he was the prohibitive favorite to win the next head coaching job. I think it was all but a given. So, it was a blow in some sense, but I'm not terribly concerned because, he's replaced with Tressel, who bears the last name of Jim Tressel. And, if you know anything about Luke Fickell, former Ohio State guy, has a great relationship with Jim, and there's kind of a system of thought and an approach to the way that they play defense that all the folks within that coaching tree have. And so I think, adding a Tressel to our coaching staff and the defensive coordinator role is maybe one of the most seamless ways to move forward, even after losing Marcus Freeman.
And looking at the offensive side of the ball, of course, Desmond Ridder back lining up under center at the quarterback spot, and really what we saw from him last year was that leap between year 2 and year 3. He really went to that next level, and he became a winner in big games. Ran for 12 touchdowns, hitting 66% of his passes. Talk about that year of growth for Desmond Ridder last year.
Desmond is, he's more than what he is on the field. I mean, off the field, he's a leader. He's a leader of men, and he's somebody who has fostered and kind of grown up in this really positive culture that Luke's created at the University of Cincinnati. And, he's kind of going to be playing a starring role this season. And it came out of, I don't think a lot of folks expected him to do so well. I mean, truly, that he was somebody that when he finally got the nod against UCLA and Pasadena several years ago, everybody within our fan base just kind of took a deep breath and thought, "How's this going to go?" And he's a player who thrives under the lights. Watching him at our team goes to Camp Higher Ground, which is like a camp and training facility that's about 45 minutes away, and just watching him practice at camp, he's added a lot to the way that he throws, to his mechanics. He went to the Peyton Manning camp and volunteered there, and then worked with Jordan Palmer this summer on some things, and it's incredible to watch him throw the deep ball with accuracy. And so, yeah, it's just going to be really exciting to watch him because he already had those electric feet and could run and create havoc. But now I feel like his mechanics, he's really developed as a passer.
And of course, they have an offense that really complements their defense well. They control the line of scrimmage. They control the clock. Can you give me some insight into the skill positions around him this year? I know there's some changes in the backfield. Certainly, with the like of Jared Dokes graduating. Give me your take on the skill positions.
Well, at running back, Jerome Ford is returning, and Alabama transfer, kid who had a huge day against Georgia in the Peach Bowl, and everybody is really excited to watch what he'll do. Charles McClellan is coming back. He was injured last season, but we saw his flashes of brilliance a couple seasons ago. Just a real quick twitch guy who can get out, and he's a spectacular runner. Yeah, out wide, Michael Young Jr., transferred from Notre Dame, is going to be one of the feature receivers, as is Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is kind of a deep ball, jump ball threat kind of receiver who's 6'3" and can go vertical pretty well, and he and Desmond seem to have some sort of special magic. And what I feel overly excited for about every position, but I'm particularly excited about our tight ends because we saw Josiah DeGara go to the Packers, and I don't, what's waiting behind him is Josh Wiley, who's 6'6", has an enormous frame, and I think he's gonna go play in the NFL. And then Leonard Taylor, who's also 6'5" and is just incredible. So our skill positions are great. What also gives me great cause for optimism is our line. That was one of the things that was always a little scary, is our offensive line. I can tell you, just seeing the size of our guys out at higher ground, it was one of the first times that I really looked at them in a kind of shocking way. I mean, I'm not a small guy myself. I'm 6'3", and these guys just impressive size. It's like I hate to use this term because it almost sounds disparaging of the AAC, and I don't mean it that way, but it's like a Big Ten line, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got just looking at our size, we go 6'5" left tackle, 6'4" left guard, 6'3" center, 6'5" right guard, 6'4" right tackle. Everybody over 300. So a lot of size, and that's been intentional. One of the things that we've done on the offensive side of the ball, Ron Crook, our offensive line coach, has done is they've intentionally pursued guys who are taller. The thought being you can add weight to their frame, and it's because guys that are taller are just harder to get around, right? They've got longer arms. They can stretch out, spread out, and so the line gives me a lot of hope as well.
And of course, as we've mentioned, Luke Fickell now 5 seasons, so he has built this program in his image, and he has gotten where he's getting this program where they want to go. And I think I ask you this question every year. Do you still kind of pinch yourself that he's still the head coach there, that he hasn't been swooped up by one of the Power Fives?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so do you still kind of pinch yourself to the fact that Luke Fickell is still the coach there and it hasn't been swooped up by a Power Five?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be an interesting year because we have 2 games on the road. We play at IU, so we get to face a Big Ten team that's really on the rise. Then we played Notre Dame on the road in South Bend, and as you well know, if we're able to get both of those games, boy, would we suddenly, we already have some national attention being, at 8. If we're able to win those games, I think our stock will really rise. As our team's stock and program stock rises, so too will Luke's. It's hard because, I don't want you to play a clip later of me saying what I'm about to say and then me feeling silly for having fallen in love with our head coach. But I don't think he's going to go. He just got a pay raise, so he's right around $3.5 million, which isn't, Astro dollars. It's not $5 million. It's not $7 million, but it's a lot of money. He turned down Michigan State, which was offering $5.5 million. I'm sure other programs, other lower tier Power 5 programs are calling his agent even now behind the scenes. I just don't think that he has an appetite to really go anywhere for a little while. I don't know that he's going to end his career here. Boy, that would be fantastic. But I don't get the sense that he wants to bolt. I think there's a couple jobs that if they opened up, I would worry. Ohio State being one of those. But Ryan Day's doing a bang-up job. His family is grafted in. He's got a whole bunch of kids who are in school here at different levels. I think, they just built a huge barn in the back of their property, Bearcats barn. And so there's a lot of things that suggest that rather than, and I've seen, we like you have seen great coaches come and go. And some of the hallmarks of that coming and going is you don't see them get further entrenched, further dug into the local community. And Luke has. It seems like he's really spread and deepened his roots in the Cincinnati community, which if he then left would be a little surprising.
And of course, and you might have the advantage of, the future realignment, whether, some of the teams from the AAC move to the Big 12 or there's some sort of merger or something along that line, because Cincinnati, along with UCF, are certainly two of the names that pop up where the Big 12 is concerned. So he might get to go Power 5 without having to leave.
Yeah, I think that takes the job and makes it, even easier for him to stay. I think he's an interesting person. He's not like a lot of overly ambitious coaches. It's not that he's not ambitious. He's, of course, very driven and ambitious, but it's not in the traditional sense. It's not like a limelight-seeking kind of thing. I mean, he's truly a builder. You can see it in how, with every football team, there's the team, of course, of players, but there's also this team of coaches. And you can see how he invests and builds into his team of coaches as well. And, it's more methodical and administrative and intentional than, somebody who's just trying to squeeze every ounce out of the existing roster so that they can land another job. I've seen those coaches. That was Butch. That was Brian Kelly. They just wanted to maximize the return on the roster that they had, and Brian Kelly was incredible at getting a lot out of guys who were way off the recruiting radar. Butch did a good job as well, but they left nothing in their wake. There was no, it was clear that they were trying to win in order to land that next job. I don't get that sense with Luke. That doesn't mean that he's, there's no lifetime contract in the works. But I just get the sense that he's committed to Cincinnati, at least in the near term, I think in the next few years.
And of course, Cincinnati goes in as the defending champions in the American, and, until somebody says so differently on the football field, they certainly are the prohibitive favorites. And as you said, they got a tough out of conference, but as we both know, playing in our conference is a difficult chore in itself. Who do you see as potential suitors to battle Cincinnati for the crown?
well, it's hard to not consider UCF, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think UCF is always kind of figures into the analysis. There's a stronger culture. I think programs with stronger cultures tend to do better down the stretch, and teams that lack that don't. And so sometimes a team like an SMU, for instance, will have a season where they spike and do really well, but sometimes the wheels fall off later in the season when they play against some of our stiffer competition, and then you see that program's not really built for the long haul, and UCF is. So UCF, I think, is going to be an interesting matchup. We get you guys at home, which I think helps, obviously. So that's the team that I look at that I think has the best shot at competing with us. I'm not all that worried about a lot of the other teams in the conference this season. Navy's always weird. Sometimes they we play at Annapolis this year, and their running game is so streaky that occasionally they can get the ball rolling against you, and it's hard to stop. So that away game is always a little freaky to me. But really, UCF is my greatest concern.
Yeah, and I think the teams that that had that stability of the quarterback position too, because you look at SMU and Memphis are replacing very good quarterbacks this season. So that's not to say the guys that take those roles won't be able to do a good job, but they're also replacing big shoes.
Yeah, and UCF's quarterback seems to be pretty talented and can sling it all over the field. If memory serves, and I haven't, the scout on UCF is not till the middle of October, but if memory serves, you guys have a pretty athletic secondary. That I don't know if you return a bunch of folks there, but I do recall that. So I think UCF could present matchup troubles for us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That certainly will be one of the marquee games in the conference this year. That is for sure. So, what do you think? Is Cincinnati poised? I mean, I know the system in its current form is still stacked against them in a lot of ways, but you mentioned if they get those two wins out of conference, it's going to be awful hard to ignore them. And I have to say, if they somehow were to crack the college football playoff, I mean, Luke Fickell may not retire in Cincinnati, but he would never have to ever have to buy a meal there again.
Yes, he'll never buy a meal or a drink in the city ever again, and he'll have a nice little statue right outside the stadium. I think last year there was obviously a palpable outcry, and it didn't just come from folks in our region. There was a national outcry from some folks in the national media who thought we got robbed. And then you saw us go out there and play against a Georgia team and dominate the whole game, and absent taking our foot off the pedal in the second half, we really get over the top, or a decision to throw the ball late in the game rather than chewing up more clock, but that's beside the point. I think I have PTSD from that. But I think with all of the national outcry that occurred last year, I think even the conference realignment rumors help, because everybody's talking about with UCF, they're also talking about UC figuring into that mix as a program that is very capable of competing that way. So I think it's hard I think that helps. That's another beneficial factor weighing in the minds of folks. And then we'll just see what the committee does. But if we win at Notre Dame and at IU, I don't see how, unless both of those teams go 500 or lower or something awful like that, which would be just a nightmare. I don't see how you can keep us out.
Well, it'll certainly bear watching, that's for sure. It's going to be an interesting season. Brian, before we let you go, please, shameless plugs for your endeavors, please.
Yeah, sure. BearcatSportsRadio.com is the website. At Bearcats Radio is the Twitter handle. And we are on Instagram, Bearcat Sports Radio, and Facebook as well. And really excited for this football season. Excited to be back. Man, we're back. Fans are going to be in the stadium. Our athletics department's already started announcing the Temple game of all games has sold out. And where our season ticket sales is higher than it's ever been, even in 2010 when we played in the BCS Bowl. And so it's boom times in Bearcat land, so we're really excited.
Outstanding. Well, Brian Fox, we certainly appreciate you being on the show and look forward to speaking to you again during the course of the season.
All right, sounds good, Jeff, and best of luck to all of you down there in Florida and elsewhere. And I am really rooting for everybody in our conference to do well. We need the rising tide for all of us to be really competitive, and I hope UCF beats the tar out of everybody else except the University of Cincinnati.
There you go. Brian, thanks again.
All right, take care.
After a quick timeout, we're back to preview UCF for 2021 with Knightline's own Andrew Phegley. That's next on the AAC Report.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up the menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
And as we bring our team-by-team previews to a close, time now to take a look at the UCF Knights. And joining us from our mothership program, Knightline, and also Knightline at Night on WDVO-FM Sundays, we welcome the boss, Andrew Phegley, to the show. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for doing all that you do for the Knightline Sports Network as well. Appreciate you doing your show, and you're getting into the long in the numbers these days. So you're almost to 100 shows, which is awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, they said it wouldn't last, but here we are.
Exactly. You never know.
Yeah, well, of course, we got football season finally upon us. I'm so happy about that. And we got the Knights getting a big opener, Boise State, primetime ESPN. And excitement reigning with the new regime. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm really, really excited to see everything that Coach Malzahn brings. This has been a highly anticipated thing, obviously. I think I've said over, the year, I guess, so far. I don't know if I guess it's been a year. I don't know. But I've said since he got here, basically, we got the better end of the deal, letting Josh Heupel go ahead and go to Tennessee, and then we got Gus Malzahn. So, I'm horribly excited. I haven't been this excited for a long time for UCF football. There's numerous things that I'm excited about, but one of them is just seeing his offense and then seeing a new defense that we've never seen before and nobody's really ever seen because the guy's a first-time defensive coordinator. So I think the entire thing is going to be exciting, and I cannot wait. We're literally, less than 24 hours now till kickoff, and I'm horribly excited.
Well, I tell you what, and Gus Malzahn has to be excited because he takes the UCF job and he's got a star quarterback already in the fold.
Absolutely, yeah. Dylan Gabriel really has, everything that there is to do this year, as far as, he's learned a new offense, will be his second one. Luckily, he hasn't been through too many offenses, but with, just a new one is a big deal. So he's got a lot there to learn, but he just is so naturally talented that I think he'll be absolutely fine. He looked really good in the spring game, which is really the only time that we've seen him. But everything that I've heard and I've read, he's done it without missing a beat. So very excited to see what he can do. He's on a lot of national watch lists this year. So I would assume if we have a good season, he'll be up there somewhere in the Heisman race as well. I would hope, with him being a junior, and who knows if this is his last season as a Knight or not. I mean, the NFL could come calling for him if he has a good year.
Well, I tell you what, it'll be interesting. The offense won't be the play every 8 seconds type of situation, but the passing game will still certainly be a big part of things. And of course, we lost a lot of receivers, with graduation and whatnot, with the likes of Trey Nixon and Marlon Williams and whatnot. But Jalen Robinson comes back, and he was such a big shot in the arm last year, and a guy that Dylan's obviously very familiar with. Ryan O'Keefe is back, and we got some transfers coming in too with Brandon Johnson from Tennessee, and I still think this passing game is going to thrive quite well.
Absolutely, yeah. But the thing is, it will be balanced. It will be extremely balanced with Gus Malzahn. I love the high flying, fast, paced offense and all that. But sometimes you just have to slow down a little bit. And I think that sometimes it got a little fast, especially for Josh Heupel and his play calling. I think it got fast, and I think he struggled a few times last year, and the offense struggled a few times last year. Not very much, but they did a little bit. Jalen Robinson, of course, Flash. We all call him. He's a really fast guy, not the biggest receiver, so I think that he will be covered a little bit more this year, or at least they'll try to cover him a little bit. So I look for all these other guys to, really show out and do their thing. They list 3 wide receivers on the what do they call this thing? The depth chart that they put out today. I'm sorry. I just had a long day at work. So
no worries.
I was like, you know me, I forget stuff. But anyway, the depth chart, they list 3 wide receivers on there: Brandon Johnson, Jalen Robinson, and Ryan O'Keefe. And then they got a bunch of other guys behind them. The one thing that I like just looking at this depth chart, I like tall wide receivers. I like big, tall wide receivers, and we've got quite a few of them. So, these depth charts are one thing, but you're going to see all these guys play for the most part, I would think, in one way or another. They're going to put quite a few packages in there. With Gus Malzahn's style, he'll do some interesting things with packages. So I'm sure that we'll see most of these guys that are listed on the depth chart.
And we probably might see something that was almost non-existent, is maybe a pass over the middle of the tight end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This is a thing that, I've been saying since Heupel got here. I was so impressed with what he did at Missouri with that. And the entire time, I'm like, why are we not using the tight ends? We have all these tight ends, especially when the one coach came from Iowa State and recruited all these tight ends, and they're big guys too. Jake Hescock, 6'7", 250. Alec Collier, the other guy listed on the depth chart, 6'3", 230. These are big dudes, so they can take it across the middle. They can take it in short yardage and really, make something happen. You see in the NFL and other college teams what these tight ends can do, not only blocking in certain instances, but catching the ball and running over people, which is what I love to see tight ends do.
No question. Of course, the backfield will get more work this year, but it's an entirely different backfield. Greg McCray, Otis Anderson, Batavius Thomas are all gone. R.J. Harvey got hurt. But got some good guys in the transfer portal for this.
Yeah, I've been excited. Probably and I've said this on the radio show and the podcast so many times, the person that I have been the most excited about, besides Big Cat, and we'll talk about him later, is Isaiah Bowser. I've been so excited to have this guy on our team. For the last couple of years, we've really wanted and, really longed for a large running back, a big guy that can, just plow through people and mow people over. And I think this is the guy to do it. He wasn't specifically supposed to be the starter, I don't think, but through injuries and people not being on the team anymore, it kind of worked itself out. But I thought maybe they would use him as a fullback situation, because I know that Gus Malzahn has been known to use a fullback in multiple back sets. So I thought he would be used a little bit differently, but this guy has played in the in the Big 10 championship one time. So and did very well his first couple of years at Northwestern is where he came from. But he's been injured the last couple of years, so hasn't had, really a chance to do much. So I think this is his chance to really show out. And he's a big dude. Wait till you see him. I don't think a lot of people understand how big this guy is. He's like prototypical NFL running back size, maybe a little taller than some of those guys, but 6'1", 225. I cannot wait to see him run. His arms, I've been saying, are about the size of my legs. And my legs aren't very big, but for arms, they would be pretty happening. So I'm just really excited. He's like a bowling ball. Johnny Richardson, of course, we have too, 5'7", 170. He's a smaller guy. We know he's fast. We know he has that little stutter and the stop motion where he can make people fall down and look stupid.
The joystick move, yeah.
Yeah. So, he's going to be exciting as well. And then Mark Anthony Richards coming from Auburn as well, who has been a little bit banged up. I thought he would be the starter at the beginning of the year, but still a little banged up, I think. So, I think we'll see all these guys as well, though. You're going to see a very multiple player set with all kinds of crazy stuff. Gus Malzahn has been doing this for a long time, and he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
And, of course, all 5 starters back on the offensive line, which is good news. They did have their struggles last year, but, you look at a guy like Matt Lee, and, the season started terrible for him, but look what he evolved into. And now that this group's got some time together, I think that will be a benefit as well. Absolutely. Yeah. These guys are all returning. So it's everybody that was there last year for the most part. They have a great coach with Herb Hand now, probably one of the best offensive line coaches in the entire country, and working with a bunch of big, strong offensive linemen. There's a couple of guys, Matt Lee, obviously, Cole Schneider, Samuel Jackson, who, I think a couple of these guys, if not 2 or 3 of them down the line, could easily be in the NFL. Sam Jackson has the work ethic
like no other. I think he's played all the positions. He can play all the positions. He can move around. So, if anything happens and somebody has to be shifted, it's probably going to be him. And I think he'll do a wonderful job. He's on all kinds of lists as well. Cole Schneider I think he was a freshman All-American his very first year. And that's, exciting as well. He's done a great job. He's a redshirt senior now, but these guys are all big and they can move people. I think you're going to see a lot of, or I guess over the last couple of years, you've seen the linemen, defensive and offensive, grow in the American, being, bigger guys than we have had in the past. If that makes sense. I don't know. I've been trying to explain that. The linemen are getting bigger, though. So for us to have big guys that are athletic as well is a good deal.
Well, let's talk about the defense now. And, of course, you alluded to the new defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, is in the house now. We don't have Randy Shannon to kick around anymore.
Second half Randy.
Yeah, and I think, the fan base is excited about that just because, okay, there's exciting and there's change. The defense certainly took their licks last year, but with the excitement of a new defensive coordinator, and again, you alluded to the transfer of Big Cat Bryant coming in to anchor the front line. I kind of look at it this way: what was the Knights were ranked like 123rd in defense last year? If they get 50% better, that's a huge improvement. Huge improvement,
yeah, and I think that they have every opportunity to do that. Big Cat Bryant, 6'5", 245 redshirt senior from Auburn, has every bit of a chance to almost do that by himself if he gets to the quarterback. This is a different defense completely, and we don't know how they're going to line up. I don't think anybody knows how they're going to line up. They definitely have the ability to have very multiple sets, though, with even the way that they set all this up. 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends. Well, they call one of them a buck and then the other one a knight. So it's going to be interesting, but I think the key, obviously, is to get to the quarterback or at least pressure the quarterback and make the quarterback, do dumb stuff back there. And I think Big Cat Bryant being in the American when he did very, very well in the SEC is going to surprise a lot of quarterbacks back there. I think he's going to introduce himself quickly and often, and we'll do some exciting things. Now, one piece of news that came out today, I believe, is Tremont Morris-Brash had a little run-in with the law, and that's not good. So we're missing him on the other defensive end spot. I don't know if it's totally or just for this game or part of this game, but he's not listed on the depth chart, which is really a bummer because I think this was really going to be his breakout season with Big Cat on the other side, and people paying attention to Big Cat, and he could have got around there and done some pretty incredible things. But the return of Kalia Davis as well is huge. Speaking of huge, he's 6'2", 310 in the middle there. And then Ricky Barber, also a transfer from, I believe, Western Kentucky, 6'3", 290 in there, should be pretty exciting as well.
Linebackers and secondary, of course, we're strong there with Eric Gilliard, Tatum Bethune, and then Derek Gain is certainly one of the veterans in the backfield. But replacing Richie Grant is going to be a tall order.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Devad Wilson has kind of been picked to do that, though, and Devad Wilson, is that type of guy. I think the thing with the defensive backs that really intrigues me this year is the coach was my position coach in college, and I know exactly what he expects. I know he expects people to really be hard-nosed football players, and Devad Wilson being taken from a corner to the safety position it just tells me that he has shown in practice that he can do this, and he's going to play really hard. I've also heard great things about Quadric Bullard as well, who's the other safety, throughout camp. His name has been mentioned probably more than anyone else's when you talk to the players, and they say, who's been showing up. So the safeties, I think we're good. It's going to be exciting to see new faces back there, though. Derek Gaines as well. Devontae Brown and Corey Thornton as the cornerbacks. Is kind of yet to be seen what happens with that. But, it could be good. We have also a senior in there, Marco Domino or Demio, or I don't know how to say his last name. So we'll learn those as we go. But he's a guy that came over, I believe, also from Auburn. And he's, been in there a lot in the SEC as well. So it's really exciting to have all these transfers, to be honest with you. Bryson Armstrong as well is listed as a starter in the Knight position, which is a linebacker position. 5'10", 210, redshirt senior that came over from, what was it, Kennesaw State, I believe. So. And he was one of the top FCS linebackers that there was all last year. So he is a guy that I'm excited to see play as well.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect, and I have it on good authority, that at the ladies' night camp that they do, that Travis Williams had the women ready to run through a wall. So
awesome. Yeah, I think that he will. He's a very interesting guy, and I guess motivates people quite well. So he was a good football player himself in college at Auburn. And he obviously, Gus Malzahn, trusts what he can do. And I'm just so excited to see a new defense. The last one just wasn't great. And Randy Shannon, we all thought, what is he doing? Falling asleep? Because the players, would come out and play the second half better than they would play the first half sometimes. Other times it was the first half and not the second half. And so I don't think that you're going to see this. I think that you're going to see a much more together defense and a defense that gives multiple looks and really tries to confuse offenses.
Yeah, I tell you what, as we go into this season, last year certainly, and COVID impacted everybody in college football last year.
Right.
And 6-4 is, well below the standard that the Knights have now. And, now going into this year, Cincinnati clearly has the bullseye now as the reigning conference champion. How do you think the season will go for UCF? Do you think they'll be in the mix?
Well, I'm going to be able to tell you a lot more after tomorrow night, to be honest with you, because Boise, I believe, is going to give us everything that we want in a game. So I think it's going to go good as long as tomorrow night. It has to start good. You have to. I still think they're going to be moving people around and trying to find where they belong and stuff like that. That happens every year, especially with a first year at this place head coach. And not these guys not being all of his guys. And most of them aren't his guys that he recruited. Some of the transfers are, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time to really show what they're made of. But looking at the schedule, I don't think that it's impossible to think that we could have 10 wins. It's not impossible. There's a couple things there that are going to be difficult games, but I would be very disappointed if it was less than 10 games, to be honest with you.
Well, it would be nice to get back to that benchmark for Knights fans. That is for certain. And again, just the excitement. It'll be prime time on ESPN. A pretty full bounce house, which we did not get to see last year. It'd be great to see the magic back.
Yeah, and I think it will be, and I think the players are really going to feed off of that even more. because they missed that last year. They've talked about it. Dylan's talked about it I don't know how many times, of just, missing the crowd behind them. And I mean, I can't even imagine. I can, because I've played in some empty stadiums before, playing at Kansas years ago, a couple of times, but not as empty as they were last year. I went to one game. I went to the Cincinnati game last year, and it was surreal, with the stadium being, maybe like
20% full, right?
An eighth full or something. Yeah. I mean, it was surreal. And I never, ever want to experience that again. It was just too weird. So, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. I love tailgating. Everybody knows that. I talk about it all the time. It's probably my second favorite thing. I mean, I like the game as well, obviously, but tailgating is huge for me and my group. And just to get back to doing that with my friends and listeners that stop by and all that stuff, I'm just horribly excited to do that. And then we have a football game as well. I mean, that's what more could you ask for?
Yeah, it's great to have football back. That's for darn sure. And of course, you'll be wrapping all that up over the weekend on the radio show on WDVO and the Knightline podcast.
Yeah, 5:00 now we're doing on Sunday evenings, which is really a good spot. I need to maybe promote that a little bit better and let people know. So the radio show now being on Sunday and the podcast being recorded on Sunday as well is a little bit different. So we're just going to do a quick recap on the radio because it's an hour-long show, but you really only get like 35 minutes to talk. It goes so fast. So that's just going to be a quick recap, and then we'll go through all the details and all that stuff in the podcast.
And of course, I'm going to do a little inside baseball because now, after I get done with this conversation with you, I will do the closing notes for the podcast. I do a little post-production, and then I send it off to you. You do the final post-production and put it out there for distribution for all of America and the world to hear.
Yeah, it works good like that, I think. We're doing really well. Every year the podcast, the Knightline Sports Network grows with listeners. We get more and more, and it's really kicked in. It was down for a little while. It's always down in the summertime, but then once we start getting back into football and everything, it really starts to kick in. You do an awesome job with your show. I love it. There's nothing like it out there. There's a bunch of other UCF podcasts, but everybody knows who the original was. So, we do a little bit of a different thing than we used to. We've slowed it down a little bit, but it's still fun, and we still love to do it and all that stuff. Just a little different. My good friend Roger Phipps, Night Bingle, is on there with me, and Big Ben Stout is with us on the radio show as well. He actually can talk about football and not just basketball, which we all know him from.
He's a multi-talented guy. Yes.
He is a multi-talented guy, and he really knows his stuff and has a lot of fun with it. So we're really having fun doing that radio show. And Chad Barr, I have to thank, because it would not be possible at all without Chad Barr and without Travis Dever, which you all hear about a lot on our shows. So those two guys are instrumental besides those of us that do the shows. We absolutely could not do any of what we do without them.
Absolutely. We thank them, and then we thank you for being on the AAC report and doing the Knights breakdown for us.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I hope to see you out there. You know where you can find me.
Oh, you got it.
All right.
All right, let's close out with some news and notes. Looking at the women's soccer honors, the Offensive Player of the Week, Madison Gear of Houston, scored a pair of goals, including the equalizer in a 4-4 draw with Stephen F. Austin on Thursday, August 26th, and had the game-winning goal against Houston Baptist on Sunday, the 29th. The Defensive Player of the Week is Carly Royer of Cincinnati. She led the Bearcat defense that allowed only one goal from the run of play in 2 matches against teams receiving votes in the national polls. She played all 180 minutes and scored the game-winning goal against Virginia Tech on Sunday. Goalkeeper of the week, Cameron Stabline Jr. Temple, 15 saves and a 1-1 draw with Penn on Friday night, the most by a goalkeeper in the American since Temple's Morgan Basilio recorded 17 against St. Joe's back in 2018. And the rookie of the week is Aubrey Mister of Memphis, had the game-winning goal against Indiana on Sunday and also had a goal against Arkansas Pine Bluff on Thursday. And our volleyball players of the week on the offense, Elizabeth Orth of Memphis. Orth was a standout in 3 straight set sweeps in tournament play at Georgia State, powering the American with a conference-high .549 hitting percentage, added the 3rd most points per set and 4th most kills per set in the league for the week. And in Memphis' season debut against California Baptist on August 27th, hit .625 with 6 total blocks and no attack errors in a sweep. And later in the day against Chattanooga, .682 hitting percentage, 16 kills over 3 sets. And the defensive player of the week is Lily Leikwig of Wichita State, played a key role in their 3-0 debut weekend, ranking 2nd in the American with 5.18 digs per set and 8th at .36 services aces per frame to open the season. In a 3-set sweep of Missouri State, she recorded 16 digs, a pair of assists, and a service ace. Against UT Martin later that day, 24 digs, 7 assists, and 3 aces, and closed the weekend with 17 digs as they defeated Arkansas State back on August the 28th. And that's going to do it for this week's show. As always, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88 and follow the Knightline Sports Network at UCF_Knightline. All right, week 1 football. So glad to have it back. This has been the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks so much for listening.